Yo, what's going on, guys? You got Glop, and you are probably noticing that I've now got a webcam. So it was promised in my 100 subscriber special that I would be getting one of these things, so here we are. I just went out today, picked it up, and I figured, you know what, let's record. So I was actually in the process of building for week 3 of the Major League Pokemon League. I haven't even started doing videos on that thing. And I kind of needed a mental break, so I figured, you know what, let's catch up on DGBA stuff. So we're going to be doing some coverage here of week 6 of the DGBA. And of course, we're going to be doing the team builder first. If you have no interest in that, in the description, you are going to find a timestamp for the battle. So for those who are still here, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and break down the team matchup. So my opponent's got a roster of Scizor Mega, Zapdos, Arcanine, Alakazam, Slowking, Chestnut, Dredagon, Ursaring, Persian Alola, Wigglytuff, Garbodor, and Mudsdale. And I just want to say right now, this is my second time recording this. The first time went pretty great, but the issue was that my mic was like right here and you couldn't see my mouth the whole time. And I'm like, you know what? There's going to be like at least 2 people in the comments who are going to say, Glop, I couldn't see your mouth. What the fuck, man? What are you hiding there? I'm not trying to hide anything, bros. All right? I'm new to this. This is just strange. I'm getting used to this webcam thing. But anyways, so at a glance, looking at their team, I'm actually quite happy because they actually are like 3 Pokemon short compared to everybody else. Persian, Wigglytuff, and Mudsdale are actually not Pokemon. They are dog shit. So I don't even have to worry about those guys, which is a big relief. However, there is a big papa. There is Ursaring, and Ursaring is genuinely the biggest threat to my team. Using the, gut set with like Flame Orb, it can avoid status like Toxic and everything else that I might have. Why do I have Ancient Power? What happened? What did I click, bros? I'm so confused. Basically, Ursaring is just going to be fucking up the club. So I really have to respect that thing. Whether it's Guts or Quick Feet, it can pose a huge threat to my team. So I really had to like account for it in my preparation. Other threats to the team were going to be the Alakazam. Alakazam, of course, is always a danger to more defensively oriented teams. Once certain conditions are met. So in this case, it would be like knocking off the Muck or getting rid of Muck, and then it can just kind of go crazy on me. Also need to really respect the Slowking. And the Slowking is not threatening offensively, but rather defensively. It can teleport into the Ursaring and provide it with a free opportunity to just kind of start wailing on my team, so I've got to be mindful of that. And then, of course, Scizor is always a threat to bulkier teams, gaining momentum with U-turn and also just posing as a potential win con late game. So that actually is what prompted me to bring my first member here, which is Moltres. Flamethrower there for Scizor, obviously. We've got Toxic to whittle down the Arcanine if it might want to switch in, and also hit the Slowking. We've got U-turn to gain momentum for the team, and Roost to restore our health. The speed is here to outspeed, I believe it's max, no, so it would basically outspeed Arcanine that are speed creeping, max speed, Jolly, Heracross Mega. So we've got a little bit more speed than that just to kind of, surpass that benchmark. Hopefully get a Roost off or like a U-turn off versus an Arcanine before it does anything to us. The next member we have here is Starmie, and this is why U-turn is so important on this Moltres, is because we're running a offensive Starmie for once. And I really feel like Starmie has great potential in this matchup. If you look at their team, they have nothing that can avoid a 2-hit KO from the combination of the moves on your screen here. I mean, Rapid Spin's not really going to be used offensively, of course, but these 3 are going to destroy shit. So I'm expecting them to run a physically defensive Slowking since I have Urshifu. Something like a Rocky Helmet set, basically to punish me going for Surging Strikes. So I'm deciding to take the water offensive route to the special side, and that is done by our Starmie. So we're running Modest because even with Modest, we can actually outspeed Timid, max speed Zapdos by 1 point. So we want to make sure we're hitting as hard as possible and doing as much damage as possible. So not really a whole lot to say about this set. We're running Analytic basically to hit like Slowking or other Pokemon harder on the switch in. Maybe like, the Scizor that might want to come in. We can hit it with Hydro Pump and then kill in the next turn with the next Hydro Pump. So not a whole lot to say with this thing. But there is an important reason why I'm bringing this, and that kind of ties into the next member, which is Hippowdon. Now, as I mentioned, Ursaring's going to be a huge threat. There's really no point to bring Celesteela because Ursaring can still destroy that thing with like +2 close combat if it gets up a Swords Dance. So I don't really have a lot of counterplay to the Ursaring, so my best bet is actually going to be my Hippowdon here. And it's kind of sad because Hippowdon's role is basically to just die, but like somebody's got to die, somebody has to die to the Ursaring. So I've got Rocky Helmet here to punish that thing for going for like Facade or Close Combat. We've got Stealth Rock for residual damage, Slack Off to heal, obviously, Earthquake, and Toxic. So you're probably noticing that I've got a NASCAR Hip out on here because we're going very fast, right? And the thought process here is that even with max Phys Def, if it's Adamant, Guts, Facade, it's going to be 2-hit KOing us anyway. So there's no point to like max out our defense stat. I'm trying to catch as many options as possible. So with this spread, what it accomplishes is, say that they're running a Quick Feet Ursaring with Facade. We still avoid the 2-hit KO from Facade. They'd have to SD to really pose a threat to us. We could get up rocks, we could get off an Earthquake, whatever the situation calls for, we've got something for the job. And then if they are the Adamant Guts Ursaring, then we still take 1 hit at least, right? And I'm running a lot of speed here to try to speed creep an Ursaring that might be, you know, invested in bulk. Because if it's Guts Ursaring, right, it doesn't necessarily have to be max speed. You can run like a little bit of speed to creep on Celesteela, and then you can still hit all my slow defensive Pokemon very hard. So I'm running speed here to hopefully outspeed what I think he'll be at. I'm thinking he'll be at like the 160 mark to account for Celesteela. So I'm hoping that I can catch him there and get off an Earthquake before I go down if it is a Guts variant. So again, if it's the Quick Feet variant, Hippowdon takes it on. If it's the Guts variant, somebody has to die anyways, and that's why Starmie is important, because once somebody goes down, we can pretty much revenge kill and even up the scoreboard with Starmie offensively, because it'll outspeed a Guts Ursaring. So the next member we've got here is Inaction, which is the Slowbro, sorry. And I'm so excited because we didn't even get to use this thing last week. I had it on the team. Everybody's like, I can't wait to see Slowbro in action. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to use Inaction, baby. So my attentive viewers will note that this is actually the exact same EV spread from last week. And that is not a coincidence. I literally just copy pasted that shit. But it's actually really it's really clutch in this matchup, and I'm going to kind of hope to highlight that here. So let's go ahead and take a look at some damage calcs. So this is Alakazam, which is part of the reason why we're running this Slowbro. And as you can see here, that's +2, my bad. So modest max special attack Slowbro, I'm sorry, Alakazam is not going to be 2-hit KOing us with Shadow Ball. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this webcam thing. So as you can see, like I said, it doesn't 2-hit KO us. And what's so cool is that we have Shell Side Arm, and it's actually really nice to check this thing because of how the move works. So for those who don't know, Shell Side Arm basically takes into account which stat is going to hit the opponent harder. So in this case, since Alakazam has a lower defense stat, it's going to be coming off of Slowbro's attack stat. And so this basically helps us check a potential Calm Mind Alakazam. Because it's going to be ignoring the, up speed def it's getting. It's going to target it on the defense side using our attack, which is why we're running Sassy. And it's always going to be 2-hit KOing it, which is really clutch. So the remainder of the moves here are basically just kind of like situational moves. We've got Ice Beam to help with the Zapdos, which Slowbro is also here for, admittedly. Just putting pressure on that thing, being able to come in, absorb discharges and shit like that. We've got Flamethrower for the Scizor, and then we got Future Sight to kind of punish their team, kind of make them play a certain way, right? Because they can't just let any Pokemon take that Future Sight. It's probably gonna have to be like Scizor or Slowking, so we can kind of play around that and make aggressive switches accordingly. And then the last thing we've got here, sorry, not the last thing. We've got another check to Alakazam, which is the Muck. So to kind of highlight this, as you can see here, max special attack +2 Focus Blast does not 1-hit KO us, and that actually is why we're running Boots. I touched on this a little bit in my last team building review. Boots is just really nice for these grounded Pokemon that want to make sure they avoid taking hazard damage. So this makes sure that basically no matter what, we will be a check to this Alakazam if we are at full health. So Knockoff is obviously there for Zam, just to get rid of items. We've got Fire Punch for the Scizor. We've got Poison Jab just as obligatory stab. And then we have Shadow Sneak, just again a last ditch kind of check to this Alakazam. Let's say that Muck can't come in and take the Focus Blast or whatever, and then what's it called? Slowbro has gotten off that Shell Side Arm. We can finish it off with the Shadow Sneak, which is quite nice. The last member we've got here is going to be Heracross Mega. So this thing is really just here to kind of, put on offensive pressure alongside Starmie. We've got Pin Missile for obligatory stab. Close Combat, same deal, just kind of hits everything generally hard. We've got Rock Blast for Zapdos and the Arcanine, and Knockoff for both of those Pokemon as well, actually. Knockoff is kind of more like the I just want to click something move, right? Because no matter what, you're getting rid of Boots on Arcanine, you're getting rid of Boots on Zapdos, so it's always going to be a positive thing. And we've got enough speed here to outspeed Jolly Max Speed Ursaring, so as my earlier examples talked about, if they're running Guts with max speed or whatever, we can still outspeed with Heracross. Because no matter what we use on any of our other Pokemon, if they're like Quick Feet max speed, they're gonna outspeed everything anyways. So I figure there's no point trying to account for that. But yeah, that's basically the team at a glance. Again, the biggest threat is going to be Ursaring, and make sure that we play around that carefully. Try not to lose too many Pokemon to it, and making sure that we get in Starmie as much as possible so that we can just start picking off Pokemon. So that's going to be it for the team builder, guys. We're going to go ahead and jump into the battle, so I'll see you there. Alright guys, so we are here for the battle, and looking at the matchup here, this is exactly the roster that I was expecting. So thankfully I've, prepared for this as much as possible. This is actually my third time recording this because I've been too, I guess, like modest to look down at the notes that I made so that I can guide you through this battle intelligently. So this time around, I think I'm actually going to look at the notes so that I don't look like a dumbass later on in the battle. I can actually give you some valuable insight as to what's going down. So for the lead, I think Moltres is going to be my best option, since I would think my opponent might want to lead with Scizor, get the Mega Evolution off, maybe try to get a U-turn out into that Ursaring to activate their Guts and just start, destroying my team. So I'm going to go ahead and lead off with Moltres turn 1 here, as they lead off with Zapdos. And I have to respect Zapdos because of the fact that, it could just Thunderbolt me. But also I don't want to getting momentum with potentially Volt Switch. So I'm going to make a switch here into Birdungo, my Hippowdon. And they go for U-turn, so that's unfortunate in the sense that, they get the initiative, but I do get some Rocky Helmet chip on it, which I guess is nice. They go Slowking here, and I'm in a bad spot, and I decided to be a big pussy. So I go out to my Slowbro, which is like the safe play. I really wanted to get up rocks expecting Teleport, but I don't know, I just figured it was better to play it safe. I need to get an idea for what kind of an opponent I'm playing. So they get in their Ursaring for free, they get the orb activated, and it's looking bleak. So I have to go out to Hippowdon here. It's my only switch in, and I say switch in lightly because I just took 63%. So this basically confirms that they are a gut set. So at this point here, I just have to hope that I'm faster with the speed EVs that I'm running. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be. So Hippowdon's going to go down here. I do get a lot of damage off on the Ursaring with the combination of Sand, Rocky Helmet, and the burn damage. But it's still looking pretty bad. So knowing that they're Guts, I think this is a good opportunity to bring out my Heracross, since we know it's going to be faster. And I'm actually going to pull a double switch here because, again, I'm down, so I have to make some aggressive plays. I'm going to pull a double switch expecting the Arcanine to come out, and I do get that play right. So I go out to my Starmie, and right here, again, I am down, so I need to make plays that are going to get me back into this game. So I'm expecting my opponent to go out to Slowking here, since they could just take a water move, take like a Scald, and then they could go for Teleport, getting Ursaring again, and just start, rinse and repeating, getting these KOs. So I go for Thunderbolt here. Now, if my opponent was Pasho Berry, he would have lived this. By this, I mean a Hydro Pump if I'd gone for it. But we later found out he is not Pasho Berry. So I heavily disagree with this play. I think that I could have very easily just gone for the Hydro Pump. But they decided to stay in, and they go for Burn Up. Now, for those who don't know what Burn Up is, it's a very, very strong Fire-type move that after you use it, you actually lose your Fire typing, and you become, well, you basically just lose your Fire typing. So in this case, Arcanine would become the question mark type, or Curse type, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, they're going to get a crit with this Burn Up. And this is actually very huge, because we live the Burn Up otherwise. And this is very bad now because our two most important Pokemon are down, and it's turn 6 of the battle. And I don't have Stealth Rock. So it looks really bad from this position. Right here in the battle, I think that I definitely almost lost composure. I think that I almost mentally gave up at this point in the battle, since from my perspective, the way they've been playing, it looks like it's irrecoverable. But this is where I basically have to kind of change my game plan and, tell myself, hey, you know what? I've won these games before. It is doable. The new game plan just has to be that I have to keep out Ursaring at all costs. I need to use discretionary aggression or defensive play to make sure that I do not allow it in, so that it can't just keep, killing my Pokemon. Because if I lose one more Pokemon from this point, it's pretty much over. So I'm going to go ahead and go out into my Moltres here. And I'm going to go for U-turn, expecting Slowking. They do not decide to make that play, so I'm going to go out here into my Slowbro. And I believe here I just go for a Future Sight. Yep, and this is basically setting up a condition where, they can't just nilly-willy throw out Ursaring. They have to be mindful of the Future Sight and how they play around that. So here I pull switch into Heracross, and this is actually a very risky play, right? Because if they had just gone for a Scald or like a Psychic move, this would have been very bad. But I know that they just want to go for Teleport. I know they want to get in that Ursaring, so I have to make this play into Heracross because this does not allow them to bring out the Ursaring versus my Heracross. So I'm going to pull the switch here into Moltres since I don't want to take a Flamethrower or Burn Up or whatever. They go for a very nice Toxic read, but thanks to the Future Sight that I went for, I'm actually able to go for a Toxic of my own now, seeing as how they are forced to go for a Morning Sun. I believe in this next turn I go for a U-turn here. Yep, go for U-turn, and I think my play is to go out into my Heracross. And right here, again, I think that as my opponent, if you have such a huge lead like this, it's in your best interest to just kind of play it safe. You don't want to risk anything unnecessarily. Just kind of play the game as it's coming to you. But it's at this point in the game that I realize that my opponent is not really like... I don't think they're outplaying me. I think they're just playing aggressive for the sake of playing aggressive. You could always make a case that, oh wow, Glop, you're getting outplayed, but I don't want to sound rude, but I think that they're just kind of playing dumb at this point because, again, I think you really have to respect Heracross. I think if you save your Slowking, right, you get it in versus Moltres, you get it in versus my Slowbro, you get a free Teleport, you get an Ursaring, you get a free kill. It's as simple as that. It's not a very hard, like, game plan to follow. So I definitely do not agree with them staying in with the Slowking here, but they do. I go for Rock Blast expecting either Zapdos or Arcanine to want to come out, as they go for a Flamethrower, which thankfully we don't take too much damage from, but it is still quite annoying. At this point, though, I have to commit to my aggressive option. I have to go for Rock Blast again. If I go for Pin Missile and they go into Arcanine or Zapdos, the game becomes very difficult at that point. So I go for Rock Blast again. Thankfully, we are able to land that attack. And they're going to go out to Arcanine in the response, so I have to go back out into my Moltres. He's going to go for a Burn Up, and it's going to do quite a lot of damage, but thankfully we're able to take that hit, and then we can now Roost in the subsequent turn. Now, this would have been a great turn for them to make an aggressive play. If he had gone for a switch into Alakazam here, I think that would have been a very good play in his part. But he does not. I think he just goes for, like, Flamethrower or something. I don't know why. It's not going to do, like, any damage, so this is just basically giving me another opportunity to go for Roost in the subsequent turn. And I believe he goes for a Morning Sun here. Yep. And then I'm going to go for a U-turn again, just trying to, like, keep up momentum for me. So I have to go to Slowbro here, and he's going to go for Morning Sun. And then I believe what I do here is I actually make an aggressive double switch, expecting the Scizor. Because basically if he gets in Scizor versus my Slowbro, he can go for a U-turn, get in that Ursaring, we're losing other Pokemon, right? I have to be mindful of that at all points in the game. So he's going to go out into Zapdos here, which is not what I was expecting. And this is very unfortunate for me because I have to stay in here, right? If he's faster than me and goes for U-turn and gets an Ursaring, we're losing a Pokemon. So I have to go for U-turn here. And it is unfortunate because he's slower than me. So again, if he went for U-turn here, game's pretty much over. Thankfully, he just goes for Thunderbolt. So in this turn here, I believe I go for a Flamethrower, expecting the Scizor to maybe want to try to come in one of our dual stabs. And he does not do that. So right here, I basically adapted to my opponent at this point in the game. I know that he's going to be so greedy. He's going to go for the double switch into Ursaring since I have an entire Muck just chilling there, you know. He's going to pull the switch into Ursaring. He wants to get his kill with Facade and end the game. I'm going to say no to that. I know the switch is coming. And I'm going to go for a Shell Sidearm, knock out the Ursaring upon switch in. Now, even if he had gone for Shadow Ball, as we reviewed earlier in the Team Builder, it was a very safe play on my end, since we know that we take the Shadow Ball, and we'd be able to potentially knock out the Alakazam, depending on its spread. So here he's going to go for Zap Cannon, and I have no idea where this came from. I don't even understand the point of that prep. Like, what does that hit? I don't know. I don't know, truthfully. Either way, though, they go for Shadow Ball in the next turn here, and I'm able to take it again thanks to the Assault Vest, and I can actually knock them out with the Shell Sidearm. So what looked like a very bad game is now slowly being turned into our favor. So I have to keep up the pressure here, go out into Moltres here, and then just go for a Roost in the next turn. It's a little bit stally towards the end here, but again, I have to play this way because I'm trying to dig myself out of a hole. So they're going to go for Burn Up, again, just trying to keep on pressure, making sure that I'm forced to Roost, which makes sense. But the unfortunate thing for them is that they don't have any way to really capitalize on me going for a Roost, right? It's kind of like, it's kind of for naught at this point. I have more Roost than they have Morning Suns, so I'm really winning in all these exchanges. So I'm going to U-turn here into Slowbro, knowing that I won't take too much damage from Flamethrower since they no longer have the Fire-type Stab. They're going to pull switch into Zapdos, and I believe here I pull switch into Moltres again, expecting Scizor, but they do decide to go into Moltres, or Zapdos, excuse me. So I'm going to go for Roost here, maybe expecting a U-turn, but they just go for Thunderbolt, so this is kind of a bad play on my part, but thankfully we don't get punished too hard. I can just U-turn in the next turn here and go back out into my Muck, actually. And the reason I went Muck here is that I don't want my Slowbro, you know, potentially getting paralyzed by Thunderbolt or Discharge if they have it. And at this point, like, Muck's health isn't really useful for anything. If anything, I just want to be able to try to knock off an item on this Zapdos to make it easier for my other Pokemon to basically beat it down. So he's going to go for Thunderbolt. I'm going to go for a knockoff here, just trying to get an idea of like what item this Zapdos has, as it is the boots. So I'm going to pull switch here into my Slowbro, because I don't want Muck getting too low. And then I believe here I just fire off a Ice Beam. Yeah, I was kind of expecting them to just go for like Thunderbolt, try to whittle me down, so I wanted to punish the Zapdos as hard as possible. Now here, Scizor comes out. My response is always to go hard into Moltres as they pull a double switch into Arcanine. So this actually works out for them, I guess, since they're able to get off a Morning Sun. But this also works out for me because I'm able to go for Roost. So I think that I get out, I guess, better in this exchange. And here I'm going to go for a U-turn. I think I go Muck here. Nope, I go into Slowbro, knowing that I'll take a Flamethrower or a Burn Up pretty well. What do I do this next turn here? I double here expecting the Zapdos. And the reason I did this is that, you know, from what they've seen, it looks like Zapdos can take on Slowbro. So if I get myself into a position where it's Zapdos and Muck on the field, I can go for a Poison Jab and hopefully land a Poison on this thing. Just to kind of like reiterate what I'm saying here, basically if I didn't pull this double switch, I would have had to hard switch into Muck when the Zapdos came out, and I could potentially get 2-hit KO'd by Thunderbolt depending on rolls. So by taking the double switch, I'm able to basically, again, confirm that I get off a hit, go for the Poison Jab, and thankfully I'm able to get a Poison on it, which is quite huge, as you're going to see later on in the battle. So now I can go out into my Slowbro, seeing as I'm at full health. This is a perfect opportunity to bring it in, and now I start setting up for difficult positioning on their part. So I'm going to go for a Future Sight to kind of make them have to play around that. I'm going to go for a Flamethrower in this turn as a conditioning play. And basically what this is doing here is they probably are not going to want to go out into Scizor since they have not Mega Evolved. So I know for sure that Arcanine's coming out here, so I can pretty freely just go for Shell Sign Arm as they go for U-turn, and I'm able to knock out Arcanine upon switch in. Future Sight just kind of hits nothing since, you know, there's nothing on the screen. And they're going to bring out Scizor, so my response is always to go hard out into Moltres. Don't want to let this thing get up an SD for free. Not trying to play any games with this thing. They're going to go to Zapdos on the U-turn. And I believe here I just go for a U-turn of my own. Going out into my Slowbro here as they go for yet another U-turn. So it's kind of just U-turn wars left and right. But again, my play is always going to be go to Moltres on the Scizor. And thankfully, since I have Flame Body, you know, this isn't really in their favor. And luckily, I do get the burn here. So this is pretty much going to seal up the game. But I'm still not going to risk anything. I'm going to play it as safely as possible. Because if Zapdos like plays well, it could potentially, you know, if it has Hurricane and everything, it could potentially beat the rest of my team. So I'm going to roost up to keep myself healthy, and then I'm going to go for Flamethrower in the next turn to knock out the Scizor. And then from here, I'm just going to U-turn out into my Slowbro, and basically able to seal up the game at this point with the combination of Future Sight and my other attacks. So I really get to show off my moveset here, which is really cool. I'm going to go for the Future Sight first to put on pressure to the Zapdos. And the next turn here, I'm just going to go for Ice Beam, seeing as how it does the most damage to the Zapdos. And then in the next turn here, I know that they are forced to roost, so I can go for the Shell Side Arm, and the combination of Future Sight, Shell Side Arm, and Poison damage is going to be enough to secure the KO and get me the victory. So this is just a long battle, and it was very, very stressful, I will say. I think the most important thing that helped me, you know, clutch out the victory here was basically being able to keep myself composed after the bad start, being able to formulate the new game plan, and really adapting to my opponent's playstyle. They just played like balls to the wall aggression, which can be good versus defensive teams, but you know, seeing as how I kind of have the experience to like know when my opponent is just going full balls to the wall, I was able to make the appropriate defensive and aggressive adaptations to keep myself like in a position where Ursaring never really got a chance to come in, and thankfully he decided to just throw it out versus Slowbro, so that definitely helped us in winning this game. So we were able to kind of take what was looking like a 6-0, turn it around into a reverse 4-0. So that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I still need to catch up on DGBA. I'm actually 1 week behind. I play my Week 8 game tomorrow, and then I still have to make coverage for the MLP. I haven't even got the start on that, but one thing at a time, right? So I'm going to see if I can use the webcam at the new stream. Stream on Monday, we're going to be covering the Elite Four of the Black and White 2 randomized Nuzlocke, so make sure you are there for that. I'll also be posting it on my Twitter, and that's all I got for you guys. So I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.